many times, right, we deal with K-dramas that just disintegrate.
Yeah, disintegrate is the perfect word. Hey, you guys, it's time for another K-Drama Coffee Break, and we are back with another summer binge list. Our summer binge list last year was pretty popular. You guys seem to really enjoy that. So Maurice and I are back this year with some more binges for you to enjoy on your summer break.
That's right. So our first one is one that's on both our lists.
Yes.
Love to Hate You on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, it was so good.
Starring Yoo Tae-oh, Kim Ok-bin, Kim Ji-yoon and his mane of glory. And also Lee Joo-bin. You know what? This was the rom-com that we were waiting for because they were two adults and it was tropey, but it turned a lot of them on their heads, but mostly because of Kim Ok-bin.
Oh, yeah.
Her character was spicy, was physically strong, and because we know she is the villainess after all.
Oh my God, the villainess. Oh, yeah, so good.
She's smart, but not so smart that she's the best lawyer in all the land. She knows what she's good at. And she's fighting the patriarchy. And she owns her sexuality too. It starts with a one-night stand.
Right?
And an affair.
Yeah.
All wrapped up in one. And she's like, what's the problem here? And we were like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, I think, again, going back to what we'd all talked, like we had just such a K-drama drought.
Yes.
Lately. And then this just showed up on Netflix and everyone was like, oh my God. It was just a fun-filled adult rom-com with people actually having sex.
Yeah.
With it not being like, I'll kiss you on the cheek and have you lose your mind. There wasn't a murder to be seen. It was all just straightforward. There was no crime.
That's right.
There was no hidden agenda.
No.
The closest thing we got to that was in the when his fans found out he was dating.
Right.
And that was it.
But the world that it was set in was so good and just so, like mature. Mm-hmm. And these are not the best of the best. He's a successful actor, but he's got lots of faults. And he's a big baby a lot of the time.
Right.
Which was really funny because you know that Yoo Tae-oh wouldn't take a standard K-drama. No. Or a standard, he wouldn't take a standard rom-com male lead character.
Oh, God, no. Are you kidding?
Right?
Please. Everything he's in is like super intense and super important.
Exactly.
So it's you knew there was going to be more.
But his chemistry with Kim Ji-yoon.
Oh my God. Like I kind of needed it to be a BL there for a while. I'm not gonna lie.
Their bromance was so good.
It was so good. I will say the only quibble I had was like his aversion to kissing women because what was the whole setup for that? Oh. It was pretty stupid.
But there was a moment
right. I was like, thank you, show. This is a dumb setup, but I appreciate you giving us this.
Right. That was a good fan service.
Yeah.
But, Kim Ji-hoon, he's one of the Netflix poster boys. He was in Money Heist. It's like so dumb and so hot. And his partner in that, Lee Joo-bin, is also in this as Yoo Tae-oh's first love, and she kind of wants him back. But what was great because then you got this extension of her with Kim Ji-hoon from Money Heist because it was really fun. This was working on so many Netflix levels.
So many Netflix levels, right?
Yeah. But I just loved Kim Ok-bin's go get him attitude. I just, that they played on her physical strength, which was...
I love the fact that she was angry at him and she was getting back, like when they first get together kind of a thing. And she was going after him because she thought he was trash. And then she just beats the hell. Listen, I really enjoyed that part. I just did. It was so great. Like, look at his face. It was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. The other thing I loved about this was that they kind of took the romanticization of your first love and imploded that. Because getting a little tired of that. Yeah. And your first love was like, do not want to revisit that, really.
No, thank you.
Not a good idea. Learned from it. Thank you. Moving on. So I liked how they weren't dwelling on this as some past. Your first love is really the love of your life. Nuh-uh. Yeah. She was just so grown up and modern about relationships.
Yeah.
So So good.
It's a salad, such a good one. And I think it's only like 12 episodes or 8 episodes, right? How many episodes was it?
10 episodes on Netflix. Easy watch. Well, the thing is they all dropped at Netflix at the same time. So we were all
we just binged straight through them.
Addicted for days.
But this one was like, you could really, this is a good, like if you're just chilling out and it's just too hot to go outside, like you could probably, this could be a good solid day for you. Yeah. It'd be really good.
Super fun.
All right. And my first one up is Missing the Other Side Part 2.
Ooh.
And I believe it's about to drop on Netflix. It's coming up. For Part 1 is already on Netflix. And we really, really enjoyed that. And this one stars Go-soo, Jun-ho, who we've mentioned a few times here. He's in all sorts of things.
He's in Bloodhounds.
He's in Bloodhounds. He's in Come and Hug Me. He was our favorite hair flailing zombie on Kingdom. We have An So-hee, back as our lovely hacker. We got Ha Jun, who's back as our detective. But this time in our village, we have Lee Jung-eun, who is our village leader. Our one of our favorites from Parasite. Yeah. And then Kim Dong-hee, who I was kind of new with him.
So we're back in Brigadoon.
Right. We are totally back in Brigadoon. Absolutely. He was in Stranger Season 2. That's why I recognize him. And he is also in our new village. So yes, Brigadoon is exactly what this is. It's Brigadoon that only certain people can see.
This mysterious village that appears.
It appears. It exists behind the veil.
I love it.
And then this one, Go-soo's got the hair.
Yes, can we talk? Oh my goodness.
His hair is so magnificent and he loves his hair so much that there was not one, but I think like 3 jokes about people touching his hair and how they should leave his hair alone.
I love
and it
him.
was amazing. Oh my God. Marisa, you need to watch this one. You're going to love it. It was very sweet. I really, really enjoyed this one. Season 1 was a little bit more about their own personal trials and tribulations. Mm-hmm. Go-soo's mom, our favorite Ajishi's daughter, Ha Jun and his fiance who was in the village, which was one of the most heartbreaking things ever, right?
Right.
This one is more about the fact that there's other villages.
Oh.
And so they're like now crime solvers, which is kind of amazing, right?
So this is the kind of the first stop before the afterlife.
The villages are for people who have died who have not been found. So if you died and your body is missing, and has not been claimed, basically, that you go to these villages. And so the village that we're in now, the first village they can no longer see. Because at the end of season 1, they can no longer see it because their business there is done.
Oh, I see.
For some reason, they are now able to see this village. Okay. And I unfortunately forget the reason why. But this happens to be the village. It's a mystery. This happens to be the village that Ajishi's daughter was in.
Oh.
And so it's kind of that story. And then it's also some crime solving because one of our guys has got a little bit of a mysterious situation going on. And so he's trying to figure out who killed him and where his body is so that he can obviously transition. And it's just so satisfying in just sort of that. It's sad because when it's resolved, the character that you've been attached to for so long disappears. But it's also like, you're like, oh God, that's so good. It's such an amazing concept. It just feels good.
I have not seen Missing 2, so I can't wait to binge this as soon as it gets onto Netflix because I love the story because there was heartbreak, but so much love. And then the kind of the mystery of this afterlife pit stop. It was just, Yeah.
And then we've got Ha Jun, who's obviously was the heartbreak of season 1. Right. Like as heartbreaking as it is that your child is missing or that you haven't found your mom, like him knowing that his fiance was abducted and murdered and she was in this village. Like the whole season, if I remember correctly, we were like, God, can I find her alive? Is it possible? Well, no. And just the whole journey. But in this one, he's just kind of, he's the only detective that knows that these places exist. And so like the buddy cop thing that's going on between him and Go-soo is hilarious. Ooh. And so, Go-soo will come up with like, I just talked to blah, blah, blah. And he's like, is he from the village? He's like, yeah, just go with it. And he's like, all right. And then watching Ha Jun trying to explain it to his people, like how he's making this happen. Like, how do you know this? I have an informant. Like it was just very fun.
Talk to the dad?
Yeah, it was great. So I highly, highly recommend it. It was very, very satisfying.
So my next recommendation is a pretty new drama It's really different. It's called One Day Off. It's on Coco and Vicky.
Yeah.
It is 8 24-minute episodes starring the great Ina Young. And it's literally taking a vacation every episode. It's a very meditative kind of K-drama. She plays a high school Korean lit teacher. And in order to recharge and recenter herself, every Saturday, she takes a one-day trip. I know. It's so good. She says there are plenty of adventures outside my doorstep. And it's like a tour of South Korea.
Oh my God. All right. Maybe I'll have to watch this one.
It's really lovely. And it's just, she's a very quiet, contemplative person because she loves literature, obviously. But she meets people who there's so much beauty and just satisfaction in their everyday lives. And it's just really lovely. So there's some really wonderful guest stars. Hanyeri plays a former student who has an art show, and she's just like off the wall, performance artist, stereotypical, but it's really enjoyable. And also Koo Gyo-hwan from DP is in it. They're small stories. It's like she goes to the Busan Film Festival, which is not like Cannes where everything's like hype and paparazzi. This is like you literally go because you love movies. Every episode can kind of be taken on its own. There isn't really a through storyline, but I think I read somewhere that if you liked Little Forest with Kim Tae-ri, you will really like this.
And you loved Little Forest.
I loved Little Forest. It definitely hits the same vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check out that Busan Film Festival episode for sure. I love that. I want to go to Busan Film Festival so bad.
So badly.
And now for some quick KThree K-Drama Coffee Break business.
That's right. We love sharing our K-drama thoughts with you, our community of K-drama lovers. And we have a few ways that you can support us. You can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/the-K3. And by becoming a member, you will get a calendar with weekly updates and also Jen's blog filled with her K-drama thoughts. You can also find us on YouTube. If you go into our archive, we have years of K-dramas to recommend for you, and talk to us there as well on our community tab. We also have a discount for a VPN service. So if you are dying to get your K-dramas that are airing only on Disney Plus in Asia, you can use our VPN. It keeps your devices safe. Just look for the code in the description below.
All right. So now we're going to pivot to something a little bit more, if you want something a little spicier, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
KAIROS, y'all.
KAIROS. Oh, that's a good pick.
This is not feel good per se, but as far as story-wise, God, it was so good. KAIROS was so good. It starred Shin Sun-rock, Lee Se-young, An Bo-yeon, and Nam Gu-ri. Y'all know that I love time travel more than reincarnation and time travel are my jam.
But 8 out of 10 times it's disappointing.
A nightmare. Nightmare. KAIROS did such a good job with the time travel and the flipping and changing of the timelines and how they got there and the different stories and how time would change and then they would have to rediscover. It was, I couldn't even explain it to you except to say it's so freaking good. And here's the thing that I will say. It doesn't get bogged down in some weird forced romance.
Oh, no.
And that is the one thing that I will say, because I think as I was watching it, I kept being like, what? Oh, please, God, no. Like, what is happening? Like, I think because of the way a lot of K-dramas go, that you kept thinking that some weird romance was going to happen between them, and it didn't, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. Right.
There was so much at stake already.
Right.
We didn't need that, so I'm glad they didn't. But, you're kind of always waiting for the wheels to fall off the cart.
Always.
But they didn't. So there was no weird romance, and the ending made sense, and it was really satisfying because I'm telling you, 8 out of 10 times, time travel, it really doesn't make sense
at all
because it's not real and you're making it up. So
exactly.
You have to create a world that somehow makes sense, and this one did.
And the creators have to know what the rules are to their time travel. And I think a lot of times creators either come up with a rule that no longer makes sense later on in the story, so they decide to change it, and then suddenly nothing makes sense. But you could tell that the creators of KAIROS knew their world. They knew exactly how they were getting from A to B and B to Q and Q back to D and then D to S. It was so complex and so simple all at the same time. You followed it every week, and I really never got confused in a bad way.
Yeah, you've got Lee Se-young and you've got Shin Sun-rock, and they both have their own goals. And so they're apart together, but it doesn't get so jumbled up. Like they're both very specific about what they need to do, and that's what they want to accomplish. So there's so much at stake just with their own stories. And it was good. It was so
good. And it's like, I cannot recommend it enough. Like it was just solid sci-fi, solid time travel. An Bo-hyun is a sexy, sexy motherfucker. In the first opening scene you see of him, I think Marisa and I gasped so loud that we were like, what is this? Hello. So you do get a little of that. Yeah. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah. But his
character, the journey his character takes is
not a straight line.
No.
And it's complex and full of surprises. He was really so good in this role.
Yeah. And so was Namguri. All four characters were so specific and so like they just were so complex. It was such a
it really had you guessing every episode so many times. You could not predict what was going to happen or where people were going to go as they were trying to achieve their own goals. Oh, it was good.
So good. Solid binge watch for sure.
And my final recommendation is, do you like Brahms?
Oh my God.
I keep coming back to this.
It's so good.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So it's on Kokoa and Vicky. Park Eun-bin, who like just took over the world with Extraordinary Attorney Woo, and Kim Min-jae, who we loved in Dolly and the Cocky Prince. Maybe you didn't get enough of him in Dr. Romantic Teacher KThree.
1, 2, or 3.
So he plays against type in this.
He really
This is not who he is in real life.
No.
The real B in your hip hop career. But it's set in the world of classical music, and it's such a beautiful romance that builds. And, they're classical musicians. They're very passionate, but their lives are quite quiet and their personalities are quiet. I just loved how their romance built. That there's so much hurt.
There's so much pain.
I love that. Why do I love that? I love that.
You do.
I do. And I just loved how she was on she was a grad student on a university campus wearing, I think she's quite conservative in real life, but nobody wears heels like that to school every day and like long skirts. I don't know. They had whoever did her wardrobe. It was lovely, but
it was a look.
It was a look. But anyway,
she was a classical musician student. Marisa.
That's right.
She has to look the part.
But there are 2 different love triangles in this.
Oh God, right.
But honestly, like it was just so exquisitely written. And I remember going back and watching episodes 1 and 2. And the writer actually laid out the whole story in those episodes. You just didn't know it yet.
Oh.
So clever. And so she set up path and the writer followed it, because so many times, right, we deal with K-dramas that just disintegrate.
Yeah. Disintegrate is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Like episode 7. No, usually after 8. After whatever the midturn is. Whatever that midturn episode number, like 1 or 2 after it disintegrates. We're just like, what happened?
Yeah. Whereas this one just held true till the end. It was just beautiful. Just beautiful.
There are 2 things about this show that will forever keep it in my all-time list.
Yeah.
One, Park Eun-bin's character, the desire, the passion to succeed at something that you work so hard at, but you just aren't quite good enough. Broke my heart, and I completely resonated with it. And so I adored this character on so many levels. And then the other thing is the ending.
Yeah.
I still remember you and me texting each other back and forth at the end of like episode, I think it's a 16 episode drama. Yeah. At the end of episode 14, we're like, there is no way they're landing this plane. There is no way. They have 2 episodes left. This is a train wreck. I'm so bummed out. This could have been a great, like we were like getting ready to like just drop it at like episode 14. Episode 15 happened and we both were like, I think you even wrote me, you're like, this thing is living rent free in my head. Like I can't stop thinking about it. Like it was one of the greatest finales. The last 2 episodes were so good and so satisfying and so just life affirming that I was stunned at how well they pulled this one off.
And lucky you get to binge it, because the 24 hours between episode 15 and episode 16, we're going to just put me in a grave because I was just dying for it.
Yeah.
But it was so beautifully rendered. It wrapped up everything that had been laid out there because apparently it all came out there in episode 1 and 2. And it tied it up and it was beautiful and it was true to character. And we got an actual kiss.
Yes, we did. I will actually die on this hill. One of the best K-drama kisses I've ever seen.
And why?
From an emotional standpoint,
yes.
Like the build up to it and then the execution of it.
Yeah. It was all earned and it was there. And how we went back to like fish-eyed kisses after that, I have no freaking idea because it was perfect. It was perfect.
And that's the thing. It was earned and it happened and what you expect to happen. Not just like, oh God, I love you so much. This is so good. And I'll kiss you on your forehead.
And
what?
And a hug.
And a hug. I'll hug you. What? What is this? You haven't seen them in like 4 millennia. What are you talking about? Like, God. No, this was everything you wanted it to be. It was perfect.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, and Seoul could not look more gorgeous in this. Like everything from traditional Korean restaurants to the coffee places to our favorite wall.
Yes.
And the Cheonggyecheon stream. Oh my gosh. They just, no wonder everyone's flocking to Korea this summer. It's beautiful.
Oh, so gorgeous.
Live in your K-drama.
Yeah. And then my final one, though not as, I have to admit, not as satisfying as what Do You Like Brahms was, but I will say very satisfying. My Perfect Stranger.
Ooh.
My Perfect Stranger just wrapped up. It's on Coco and it's on Viki, and it is 16 episodes, and it is time travel. And our 2 leads are Kim Dong-wook and Jin Ki-joo. They go back to 1987. which means a lot, something very different in Korea than it does here.
Mm-hmm.
Which you forget. As an American audience, you forget. Like 1987, I'm just like, dear God, like the hair and the music and school and like that whole thing, right? It's a whole different idea of what 1987 is. And 1987 there, they were concerned, like in the first 2 episodes, like you couldn't not have ID in you because they would think you were a North Korean spy.
Right.
And so that was a whole subplot that I didn't even think about. And so it's a whole subplot to the story.
Y'all, the IMF crisis was in the 90s in Korea. So this is before they went through their financial ruin and then rising like a phoenix.
And so there's kind of this underlying tension already with them going back to 1987. And it's this magical car and he goes through a tunnel and they end up in 1987. And it's all about family, and it's about this murder that they're trying to solve in this small town in Korea. And I don't want to give too much away because it all relates. So you don't want to say too much. But like in 2021, our boy Kim Dong-wook finds out by this time traveling car that he's murdered in 2022. So he goes back to try and solve the murder before he gets murdered.
Wow.
Right.
The man must have been busy.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just this whole story. But again, with the time travel, they didn't do a lot of bouncing around, which I thought worked out really well. It was one of the few time travel dramas that they changed the future willy-nilly. Like they were just constantly, I think they had maybe 3 conversations about don't do too much because you'll change the future. And then they blew up they blew up everything. And you're like, oh, that's going to, there's a lot of change there. But it was so satisfying. Like it was one of those stories that when you get to the end, you're like, I'm really enjoying this.
Oh, good.
Like it was easy to watch. The romance didn't overwhelm the whole thing. The romance was very much not the key story component, but it ended up being a very important story component, if that makes sense. And so, I just really recommend it. Like the characters were great. Our families back in 1987 were fantastic. There was a lot of really good humor. The comedy was great. The drama was great. The connections with characters were great. Our 2 leads really worked well together. Yeah, it was really, really sad. Highly, highly recommended as a binge for sure.
I think like Kim Dong-wook is one of the best of his generation. Because I remember watching this anniversary special on Coffee Prince, and they were talking about how everyone on the crew and cast was excited for him to start because he had a reputation. This was his first K-drama.
Really?
He had a reputation coming in. They were like, this young man is going to be a star. He's so good. And they were waiting for Kim Dong-wook to get on set because they knew how good. And this was the beginning of his career. So now here we are, I don't know, 10 years later?
Easily. Yeah. He's fantastic. I mean, he's just so solid.
Yeah.
I mean, did you watch, not to go off on a Kim Dong tangent, but did you watch King of Pigs?
No.
That's dark. That's bleak, y'all. That's bleak. Super, super bleak.
Yeah, maybe not.
But it was, he's so good in it. Like, he's just this tortured soul through like episode after episode. So it was a lot.
Wow.
But he's just as an actor, like he's just so in there. You just feel everything with him. And so he brings that to every role. And like, even in this one, but he's also, my favorite thing about him, even though he's an exceptionally emotional actor, he's got this sense of humor, like in The Guest. Like, I mean, listen.
The Guest.
Pakildo. Like, listen, this is a man who like saw ghosts and was like chasing down a ghost for like episode after episode. And like, but he's got this underlying sense of humor. That dry sense of humor that I just love. And then Jin Ki-ju also has that same type of style. And so that just meshed really well together. And so they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun to watch for 16 episodes for sure.
Love it.
All right, guys. So there it is. Now you've got 6 more great summer binges to jump on.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, give a review for our podcast. It really helps us out.
Thanks so much. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.